Today will be delivered by Carlos V. Valencia from the Iglesia Bautista Victoria Cristo congregation. But before we start today, I think we're all saddened by the events of this past week. Our prayers are with all those who were injured and the families of those who lost loved ones. Many of us were taught as we were growing up how important first impressions were. But I really believe that what I've come to understand is it's much more important that we strive to understand what's in someone's heart. What I would like to ask each one of us to do as we stand for the invocation is to hold hands and to join hands and to have a moment of silence for those events of last week. Carlos, would you please come forward at this time for the invocation?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Before I lead the word of prayers, I would like to say something about what happened on Thursday. When I see myself at the mirror, I don't see my skin, what I see what God created. And this is the way that we have to see people. We have to see what God created. And this is the time in our nation that we can start share the love of God to everybody. And this is the opportunity that we can build bridges, the reconciliation, because we are the nation and we are the people of God. And this is the opportunity that we can embrace everybody and let the people know that we are that nation, we are that great nation. So this is the opportunity. When I see you, I don't see you color. I see what God created. And this is something that we can start to tell everybody about that love. So now I want to invite everybody to bow your head, and I want to lead in a word of prayers in this moment. Good and gracious God, we come before you this morning to give you thank you for our counting provisions, safe and leaders. And we give you thank you for those who work so hard every day to serve our community. As our county representative, being their meeting, we ask for your wisdom on the decision that they are about to make. Your word said that if we lack of wisdom, we should ask you, who gave us generosity to all without finding fault, and that it will be given to us. May those who are here today seek your wisdom, and you will only desire that the best for our community. May they feel support by those they serve. Bless them greatly for being faithful leaders, guiding them to do justice, love, and kindness, and walk humbly with your Father. In the name that is above all names, Jesus' name. God bless you.
Amen.
Amen.
I
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Pastor, for coming out today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have two announcements as it relates to today's agenda. The first one is under the County Administrator section, item 8A1. This concerns the amendment to forward tax increment financing district number 13. We made a minor correction in the resolution that we're going to ask you all to approve today. I believe that the documents that you have up there already have reflected the change. So just want to make sure everyone knew that there was a minor change. Also, under purchasing, item 8H10, there was a correction that was made in the year of the funding source, and so we have made that, and once again, it's in your documents already as you have them. Finally, members of the court, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about two things. First of all, next week, we need to take you all into work session after court to hear the two proposals as relates to the RFP for the first phase of the JPS strategy development. And so what we'll do, we'll bring you lunch in, and we should start about noon next week, and we'll have you out by 2 o'clock. I know that IT Steering Committee, we've asked that it be rescheduled. It was supposed to be at 2 o'clock. We asked that it be scheduled to 3 o'clock so that we have plenty of time to move you from this meeting to that one. Then also, members of court, on the 26th of this month, we do not have Commissioners Court that day. Thank you, Your Honor.
Question.
Yes, sir.
We were originally scheduled to receive the Tarleton State University study on the 19th. When is that going to be rescheduled?
We have rescheduled that for August 3rd. It's the next court meeting after the 19th.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Court
you.
members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of July the 5th.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Fickus, Commissioner Wynn. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Fickus.
And Judge Whitley. We had a congratulatory resolution to Alan Weger, City Manager, City of Hearst, for his 35 years of service to the city, and he had his retirement celebration last week on Friday, and the judge and I presented him a proclamation, so we'll move approval of the congratulatory resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius?
Thank you, members of the court. Ms. McMillan is going to present item 1.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In 2009, the county and the hospital district approved participation with the City of Fort Worth in the City of Fort Worth TIF number 13, which is the Woodhaven TIF. Since that time, the TIF board has recently approved a modification to the project financing plan for that zone. Carol Griffith from the City of Fort Worth is here to give a status update on that TIF zone and on the modifications that were made to the plans.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Carol Griffith. I'm with the City of Fort Worth. I just have a brief presentation for you. And we are not sure this is going to work. So I guess I should say next slide. There we go. Okay, so it's not working. Thank you. Okay, I wanted to give you just a brief visual for this TIF. The purpose of the TIF was to help fund public infrastructure, of course, and specifically to help fund some demolition, environmental remediation, that sort of thing. This TIF was created in 2008, about the same time that there was a redevelopment plan for this area that involved tearing down 5 apartment complexes and trying to create a new central commercial district for this area. And as you probably know, what has happened since then is that 2 of the apartment complexes were torn down, and then the redevelopment plan really has not progressed. And that's kind of material to this change that the TIF board has made to the project and financing plan. So next slide. Today we're requesting your approval of changes to the project and financing plan for the TIF, and I'll describe those changes. Just they're very small in a way. They're brief to explain, at least. The participation agreements with both the county and the hospital district require us to bring forward to you any changes to the project and financing plan for approval. And so that's what we're doing today. And next slide. So the project and financing plan, every TIF has to have one. It's the core document. It guides the policy for that particular TIF. What is this particular TIF about for this particular area? This document is first adopted by the TIF board, and then it goes to the city council, and of course it comes to all the taxing entities that participate, and any amendments to it require the same approval process as long as there's a requirement in that participation agreement. So that's why I'm here. Next slide. These are the specific changes to the project and financing plan, and the main one is that it allows the use of Chapter 380 grants if the project meets certain criteria. And as you know, but I'll just explain really quickly, the 380 grants are allowed by the state and to use tax dollars to fund financial gaps in projects. Normally, of course, TIF districts are all about funding public infrastructure to support private projects that bring in new tax dollars. And this is changing it a little bit to where this TIF could also use those tax dollars to fund a financial gap. And I'm the one who would be reviewing it to see if there really is one. And it would only be used in these three cases. One, if it's utilizing historic tax credits, if it's owned on property owned by one of the taxing entities that's participating, or if it will provide a minimum of 10 full-time equivalent positions and $500,000 minimum investment. So what we see is that for this TIF, the redevelopment plan did not go forward. We do still have some empty buildings. We would like to attract businesses to that area that bring in new jobs. And in attracting that, we believe that if they come in and rehab a building, they will be creating new tax dollars, but they'll also be bringing in jobs. So it's sort of using it for a different purpose. But that would help this TIF, whereas there are not a whole lot of opportunities necessarily to do projects that are coming up from blank land and creating new public infrastructure. That's the reason this change was decided on by the TIF board. Now, the other changes that are listed up there, we just went ahead and updated the anticipated projects list. We updated the amount of revenue we think this TIF is going to bring in. And then we also added language specifically authorizing the board to use 4% of the annual revenues for administration. Before, it just had the blanket statement, you can use the TIF increment for administration. We wanted to go ahead and put in our normal threshold. But as you know, that 4% is typically seen as coming out of the city's portion of the tax increment that goes into this TIF district. So, next slide, yes. Okay, this slide just shows you for this TIF, in this project and financing plan, the projects that are listed as sort of eligible for dollars from this TIF. And the addition that's being made is that Chapter 380 grant, that whole statement, that we inserted into the project and financing plan the whole 3 criteria, everything. And then also there's the little modification. We're not adding administrative expenses. We're just putting that threshold that it can only be up to 4%. Next slide.
You might also note that the 380 is something that applies only to the city and not to the county.
Oh, I always forget to mention that, but it is something that we would be using the city's portion for the funds. Yeah, that's a state law. So let's see, this slide just gives you the updated projected revenues and cost for this TIF. This is, of course, a budget. It's really a guess. The numbers that are actual will not have to comply with this, but it gives you an idea of what the plan is for this TIF and what we're thinking the money will be used for. Last year, the TIF increment did jump up a little bit, which is great news for this TIF. The property values went up by 12%, which was seen kind of across the county. That's been the best jump for this TIF in quite some time. We don't expect that to continue. We project funds out at a 1.5% growth rate, just to put in a general amount. And so that's what we see as this TIF being able to, over its lifespan, provide for project costs. So next slide. This just gives you a visual on it. It had a high base taxable value to begin with. It's got a lot of apartment complexes, not growing at a rapid rate, but we do that little gold strip is we do see that it's going to come up with some money in the end. So next slide. The next slide's the recommendation, so I'll go ahead and hand it over to Lisa McMillan, although I would be very happy to answer any questions.
Let me ask one question. When you tear down we establish a TIF, we've got a base. Within that base are these apartments. You tear those apartments down. What effect does that have on our base?
In a way, it could take it down because you do freeze at the base. So like 2008, this is your base level, and anything that changes can affect it negatively or positively. So you could see even in that previous slide, we could go back to the previous slide. I don't know if my little keyboard there, you can see that in this TIF, indeed, the tax values dipped, and so basically it wasn't earning money for a while.
So it doesn't establish a new base, it simply lowers the base at that point in time, but as the values increase into the future, until they go above the original base, the revenues don't go into the deal.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else?
And you described something which sounded a whole lot like an EB-5 deal when you started talking about jobs and minimum $500,000 investments. Is that anticipated to be in there also?
That's one funding mechanism that could also contribute to a project that's coming into the TIF.
But it's not in there
Sure.
right now.
Well, as I understand it, EB-5 is simply a financing mechanism, so it would be like the TIF's contributing dollars and the EB-5 could too into a project.
Yeah, but the reference that you made to employment and to minimum investment was a criterion for the 380 agreement.
Exactly, yes.
It had nothing to do with any anticipated EB-5.
Right, no, it's specific to the TIF dollars, so they have to meet that in order
Not
to
to the
use.
TIF dollars, to the 380.
To the 380, yes. I should speak more precisely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We want to see those minimum criteria before we use TIF dollars, yeah, for the 380. Okay, anything else? Okay, here's Lisa.
And just to follow up, that same, the city of Fort Worth is going to a lot of the different TIF districts and putting that 380 ability into the project plans, and they all have that same criteria. So it's pretty much staying the same. As Carol said, the development.
I'm sorry that I keep harping on this, but I want to. Should the city decide that they were going to approve an EB-5 that goes into this deal?
That financing just goes to the developer who's doing the project. That has nothing to do with, it's not going, that's just funding the project. So
So
if you have
none of
some,
that money would reach back into the city's.
no, it's just an EB-5 project, that would just be the developer who's putting a project in. That's his way of financing. As she said, this gap, the 380 would be the difference between whatever financing he was getting, whether it was from a bank or an EB-5. 380 would be any kind of gap financing. It may be that they have to go in there and demo, so they're providing some financing for demo, facade improvement, those type of things.
Okay.
The EB-5 is strictly private.
Okay.
You know, this area is probably in a EB-5 area.
I'm sure it is.
Target employment area, but it has nothing to do with it. Our current agreement stays the same. We still, both county and hospital districts are participating at 80% for the 20-year period. There's 12 years left on this TIF zone. As Carol said, the slow development has been slow, so that is why the anticipated amount of projects that can be funded has been dramatically reduced. Originally, there was about $13 million worth of projects that were on that list. Now it's down to about 4. We are not changing our caps. Currently, the caps on participation for the county is $2.7 million, and for the hospital district is $2.4. However, we are still only paying in our pro rata share of what costs are funded. And as Carol showed you on that list, that is anticipated that in the 12 years left on the TIF zone, unless something just happens and we get a lot more revenue coming in, we're anticipating that the county will actually only put in about $650,000 to the TIF, and the hospital district will only put in about $534,000. So today we're asking that the Commissioners Court approve the attached resolution and amendment number 1 to the participation agreement between the City of Fort Worth and Tarrant County, and the amendment number 1 to the participation agreement between the City of Fort Worth and Tarrant County Hospital District for Fort Worth Tax Increment Financing Zone number 13, the Woodhaven TIF, which provides for the approval of the modification of the project and financing plan.
Because these changes have no additional financial impact on either the county or the hospital district, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Excuse me.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Snyder.
The Risk Management Board is recommending the approval of 2 claims. The first one to Fort Worth Western Railroad, and then 2 pieces to the second one to Mr. De Anagostino.
Welcome to my world.
Thank you. I was going to let you read it, but
Nope, ain't happening.
Move.
Go ahead.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. He's preempting you, I guess. Or he's afraid you might play with the little board up there instead of doing your presentation. So,
Good morning.
good morning.
Good morning, sir.
It's requested that Commissioners Court approve change order number 1 to the Spa Glass Contractors Construction Management Contract for the Precinct 1 Maintenance Facility Project.
I hate change orders, but these are not change orders generated by the construction management firm. These are change orders that are in large part due to our effort to achieve a higher level of LEED certification for this project. And because of that, I move with approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
I move to receive and file personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file the personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you and good morning. We have one additional item for the court. It's item number 2. We're asking the court to approve magistrate authority and additional compensation for the criminal court administration. HR is recommending a supplement of $145 per month for counsel-assigned magistrate duties. If approved, the impact to the general fund will be approximately $4,700 per year, including fringe benefits.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Just wanted to give you a little pause there, I'm sure. Nope. Keep fooling me back there, Chris. Just
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
Good
Commissioners.
morning.
Good morning.
It is requested that the Commissioners Court approve the purchase of AT&T Optiman Metropolitan Area Network Services for 13 Optiman circuits for a period of 3 months using the State of Texas Department of Information Resources contract number DIR TEXAN NG CTSA 005 with AT&T in an amount not to exceed $84,284.20.
Move for approval. Second.
I don't see anything on this purchasing agenda that even resembles what you said.
It's on IT.
It's under IT.
This is IT.
Oh,
Does she look like Beecham?
excuse me.
You got any questions about this, JD?
None.
All right. We do have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
I'm following the book.
I don't know what it is, but we're paying $84,000.
None of them look like Jack.
No, you're right.
No, you're right.
$84,000 for something we're going to use for 3 months, I think.
You kind of had me worried there for a second, Commissioner. I thought, I started looking at my agenda real quick to see if I'd missed something on here, but thank goodness we didn't. We have 2 items for your consideration this morning. The first one is RFP number 2016-081. This is an RFP for the Offender-Defendant Paid Batterers Intervention and Prevention Program for Community Supervision and Corrections Department. Award per contract terms to the vendors listed on your communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item is for bid number 2016-153. This is the purchase fitness equipment for the Tarrant County Plaza Building for the Human Resources Department. The awarded recommended vendor is Pro Maxima per unit price basis.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
So getting a little bit more reluctant as we go through this agenda. I'm glad that we're now at the point to where we're approving interlocal agreements. Commissioner Brooks, I believe you have one.
I do have an interlocal agreement with the Crowley Independent School District. I move approval of item 8J1, A and B.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Under appointments, I would like to reappoint Moji Haddad to the NTTA board. His appointment, his term is ending the beginning of next month, so I'd like to go ahead and get that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. I believe we have the approval of a bond for the magistrate that we just did earlier. Nan, okay, let me go back here and find what Nan's magistrate authority. Nelda. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for helping me out there.
Move for approval of the bond.
What are y'all looking mysterious like out there for?
I'll second.
Well,
We weren't aware that there was a bond. We just want to make sure that legal is.
well, I'm just glad to see we finally caught y'all on something that you want to learn.
It's been approved as to form by the DA's office.
Yeah.
Or is it a
Can we ask that
self-insurance
it be held
bond?
until after close? Honestly, we make sure we have.
We can either hold it, yeah, we'll wait till after close, because maybe somebody put this on here, but we'll see what it is. Okay, we'll wait till after close
Thank
on
you.
that.
We'll have an answer for you.
Board members, you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have two items to bring to you this morning on briefing. The first one is the annual update from Tcdrs. I think that Ms. Glenn is going to lead on this.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
As Mr. Maney has indicated, the court will receive its annual briefing from Tcdrs today. From Austin, we have Amy Bishop, their director, Erica Nieto, the employer services representative. Both Amy and Erica will be presenting today. And we also have Amy Campbell, who is manager of employer services. We're not asking the court for any action today. This is just a briefing item, and we'll be back at a future date to get the court's decisions about funding for next year. So I think I'll ask Amy and Erica to come forward.
Good morning.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Good morning.
Judge and Commissioners, thank you so much for having me here this morning. My name is Amy Bishop, and I'm the Executive Director at the Texas County and District Retirement System. And I'm here with my colleague, Erica Nieto, and she's your Employer Services Representative.
Okay, so there we go.
Oh, perfect.
You're going to have to say
Thank
next
you.
slide, because he's
Okay.
going to read your
Okay,
mind
great.
after that.
Great. At Tcdrs, we serve more than 700 employers across the state and over 270,000 Texans, providing retirement, survivor, and disability benefits. Tarrant County is one of our largest 10 employers. And in fact, you've been in the system since the beginning nearly 50 years ago. We've had a long working relationship with your HR division, with Tina Glenn and others. And I also want to recognize the Tarrant County Clerk, Mary Louise Garcia, as she serves on our Board of Trustees, serving countless hours working on behalf of the members and beneficiaries of our trust. Tcdrs at 89% funded and with a 9.6% 35-year return is one of the best funded retirement systems in the country. For nearly 50 years, we've been providing these model benefits. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the savings-based benefits that you provide to your employees. I'm going to talk to you about how you fund those benefits, including our investment results for 2015. Erica is going to walk you through your plan rate for 2017 and talk to you about the choices, the local control that you have to make decisions about your benefit plan each year. So here's how your benefit plan works. Your employees are putting in a percentage of their pay, 7% every year. It's going into an account at Tcdrs, and it earns 7% a year. At retirement, we take that account balance plus employer matching, and we calculate a lifetime benefit. Last year, Tcdrs paid out over $1 billion into the state of Texas. And in Tarrant County alone, we paid out nearly $54 million in benefits in 1 year. Those went to your former employees, retirees, and former members. This next slide shows you a profile of your average employee that's participating in the plan. They're 46 years old with 12 years of Tcdrs service and an average account balance of over $60,000. Your retirees, on average, retire at age 61 with 18 years of service. And this is interesting. Your employees are actually working for you a little longer than our statewide average, so you have good retention. And they earn a little over $28,000 a year in benefits. Your current plan of benefits, now each year you review your plan, but I've shown you here what your current selections are. Your employees are putting in 7% of their pay, and at retirement we match that 2-to-1. Your vesting is 8 years of service, and then I've listed your retirement eligibility. Age 60 with 8 years of service, rule of 75, or 30 years of service at any age. Your employees have to meet one of those. This next slide gives you an idea of how much you're providing your employees at retirement. So this can be a helpful tool when you're evaluating whether your benefits are adequate. On the left-hand side of this chart, you see the percentage of salary right before retirement that the Tcdrs benefit is replacing. Across the bottom, you can see different scenarios depending on how long somebody works. And we've shown a scenario hired at 55, retiring at 65, so 10 years of service, all the way to 30 years of service. And you can see most of your folks are falling in that middle bar with 20 years of service, earning approximately 55% of their salary in retirement. Now, those are your benefits. Now let's talk about how you fund those benefits. And Tarrant County, you've been a model for funding your benefits. Because your employees are putting in money in advance of when it's needed, you're getting the maximum power of investment earnings over time. So 77 cents of every benefit dollar that we pay out actually comes from investment earnings. 13 cents comes from employer contributions, and 10 cents from employees' own pockets. So you can see the importance of investments in driving our success. This next slide shows you our diversified portfolio. Our portfolio is constructed to achieve our long-term return goal of 8% over time within an acceptable level of risk. And you can see our different asset classes depicted in the chart. This next slide shows you our performance over time, and this is net of all fees, so this is the amount we have available to work for your benefits. You have to remember that Tcdrs is a long-term investor. We're trying to achieve that 8% over long periods. Folks work for 15 to 20 years, and then they're retired for another 20 plus years, so we have a long-term horizon that we're investing over. The blue line shows you our performance results over time. At the right-hand side of the chart, you can see our long-term results, and we are meeting or exceeding our 8% return goal. On the left-hand side of the chart, you can see our results for 2015 were flat in 15, about minus 0.7%, because the markets were fairly volatile and flat last year. The good news is that bottom line are our benchmarks that we compare our performance against, and we've exceeded our benchmarks over all periods, and this is due to excellent performance by our investment managers. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Erica. If you've got any questions on investments, I'd be happy to answer those, or I'll turn it over to Erica and let her walk you through your rate.
Thank you. As Amy mentioned, my name is Erica Nieto, and I am your Employer Services Representative here for Tarrant County. Thank you for having me. The benefits you are providing for your employees are responsibly funded. And this responsible funding ensures that when the time comes to pay these benefits, the necessary funds will be there. In doing so, by statute, we require all of our employees to pay a required rate of pay to fund these benefits for their current employees' future. The employer rate for 2017 for Tarrant County is 14.28% of payroll. And by paying this, you're funding the benefits for the future, and you're paying down all of your unfunded liabilities in a closed 20-year amortization period. Well, the great news about Tarrant County is since 2015, you have elected to set an elected rate in place of 17.50. You have paid us more than what's required. In fact, you have been a model in our system for other employers to emulate by taking a proactive strategy and paying more than what's required. Because by doing this, you're paying down unfunded liabilities sooner than a 20-year amortization period, and you're creating a cushion for yourselves to fund future benefits or for future adverse years. And so as a model, we have talked about Tarrant County and this proactive strategies you've taken with other employers who are choosing to pay elected rates as well.
Do you have any information on how much sooner than 20 years will pay out this alleged unfunded liability?
Absolutely, sir. We can calculate that for you. I can visit with our actuarial services department, and I can run a specialized study and have that provided to you to show you the duration in which you're funding your plan by paying an elected rate versus the required rate.
A couple of things that I would make a comment on. Remember, several years ago, if we gave a cost of living increase, we did not immediately pay for that through whatever calculation they would give us. Since we've started doing that, and I know Mr. Manius was one that pushed that we do that, that has helped. We still have probably 4 or 5 years maybe where our rate is high because of our practice years back.
Several years ago. Yeah.
But at the same time, we are making some progress here. And, I have to say, we do have this contractual unfunded liability, unlike the one in OPEB, which I constantly berate GASB about, and oftentimes our auditor when he comes to present our report. Yeah. No, they're not paying attention to me, but they're still having to listen to me. Go ahead.
You're absolutely correct, Judge. You have taken a proactive strategy in funding, not only through an elected rate, but with additional contributions that have been made in the past as well. And collectively, that is all proactive future forward that will eventually catch you up from past benefit increases made.
The other reason why we do it in a percentage and instead of making a lump sum payment is because now our CSCD has been able to help us and to share in whatever lump sum payment we made, but it's much easier for them if we make that additional payment toward lowering our unfunded liability in the form of a spread over the year. And so in talking with Tcdrs, we moved from just making a lump sum payment to spreading that over the entire year.
So we're no longer adding to our unfunded.
No, in fact, I think when we began this process, as I recall, we were maybe about around 79%. We were slightly below maybe what the 80% was. And so now we're seeing us moving above the 80%. And the 80% was what everybody had kind of used as the target about where, where the majority would be. And I think that hopefully what we will do is we will continue to see that ratchet up, and that we'll eventually be fully funded.
Yes, and to speak to that, Judge, outside rating agencies like Fitch and S&P rate the health of a system at 80% funded and higher, which is exactly what happened for Tarrant County. You're now 81.4% funded, and by taking those proactive strategies, you witness the increase of the funded ratio.
Thank you. Good.
The next slide will indicate reasons for rate change. Because of plan experience, because of an evolving workforce, because of our investments, there are a multitude of factors that come into determining what the required rate will be for all employers each year. And this is just a snapshot of the 2016 rate, the required, being 14.18%, and with several factors involved, investment return being the one area that you notice the considerable impact, and then you have other areas in which you had a positive plan experience, hence the negative signs. So because you pay an elected rate, the negative 0.34% shows the impact of that proactive strategy and how it helped offset those losses. You also had a positive plan experience with demographic and other changes. That can simply be that people withdrew their funds, and in taking out their own deposits and interest, they forfeit the match that had been saved for them, and those matching dollars remain in the Tarrant County account. So therefore, that is a positive plan experience for Tarrant County.
And I just want to make sure that if anybody does that, I want us to have their signature in blood that they understand they're giving up the county.
They are counseled thoroughly.
Because I cannot fathom why anyone would take a lump sum as opposed to
Quick cash.
It is quick cash, but they're only getting a third of the cash that they would have gotten over the period. So I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
And in fact, we have a system in our home office. The Member Services Call Center will call in council members and make sure that they understand by withdrawing their funds, they're forfeiting those matching dollars. And so not only are they very well counseled here by your individuals, but then they hear it from us as well. To the point that we want them to know what's happening, and they understand that they don't have to take their money. They can actually let it sit and it can grow interest, but in the end, it's ultimately their decision. And when those kinds of experiences happen, those matching dollars remain with the employer account. You'll also see the change there for 2017, 14.28. And our job is to provide you with these rates every May. So the slide that you'll see following will show you a reflection of the flexibility and local control that you have in our system. And this falls under a very unique feature that we provide. As the decision-making body of Tarrant County, you have the opportunity to review what the rates are when we release them in May. And based on work experience, based on your budget needs, or any information therein, you have the opportunity to adjust your plan accordingly. And my job is to provide you with the information you need and to run analysis for you, as I will, Commissioner, based on your question. We will run analysis and make sure you're very clear and you have all the information you need to adequately determine if you want to leave the rates as they are or if you need to make any adjustments to your plan. In fact, we have a timeline. Independent actuaries are going to take a snapshot of your plan every December 31st. And they're going to study and value your plan through a summary valuation that will take place from January through April of every year. In May, then, the rates are released, and as the decision-making body, you have until December of that given year to make any changes to your plan. Those changes, either if there are any, or if the plan remains the same, all of that will go into effect January 1 of the following year. And so that timeline allows for the information and the studies and the analysis and the questions. And at your request, we are always available to come down and provide information and answer questions in any area of our plan and in the system. In addition to that, we personally invite you to attend our annual conference. That takes place in Austin, Texas every July, and therein lies the opportunity for you to come and learn more about the different facets of Tcdrs, investments, and the plan itself, and that'll be in between the time frame you have to make any plan adjustments in July. And as mentioned, as Employer Services Representative, I am available to answer questions. I serve on a team that travels this beautiful state, and I'm privileged to work here in this area for Tarrant County. I am accompanied today by, of course, our Executive Director and my manager, Amy Campbell, and they have both served this area prior to me, so they bring lots of knowledge and excitement for myself to be your new employer rep, and I'm looking forward to providing information you need. I'm honored to work with your HR office, and at this time, if we can continue to provide plan information or investments, we'd love to open it up for questions.
I know that 2008 was the bad year, and that was spread over how many years?
It was smoothed, the results were smoothed over 5. That has essentially already been taken care of.
So that's all out of the way at this point in
Yes.
time?
Yes, that's out of the way, so.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you all very much for coming up and being with us today.
Thank you.
Members of the Court, we have one final presentation to make as relates to the briefing agenda. This is the proposed Texas Department of Motor Vehicle fees. Mr. Wright is here to address the court.
Good morning.
Commissioners, good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Before I begin, I want to reintroduce my motor vehicle director, Dorothy Starr, behind me. You'll just very briefly.
There.
Tarrant County is blessed to have her. She is one of the go-to people in the state of Texas. When other counties need help or advice, Dorothy's one of the people they call on. She's been with us over 20 years, and she's a real pro. I'm going to talk to you today about motor vehicle issues and the new fee structure that has been adopted by the board of Texas DMV. As you know, we're the third largest or third busiest tax office in the state when it comes to motor vehicle work, behind Harris and Dallas. We register and title over 2 million cars and trucks a year. This slide shows basically the amount of registrations we do. It's over 1.6 million. It's up and down, but the trajectory is always up because we're a growing county. The more growth, the more cars and trucks, the more registrations. And the next, do I have a?
They'll change it back.
Okay. This is a good story because when titles are up, that means the economy is up. People are buying and selling cars, and we do over 500,000 of those a year. Maybe you can see the increase over the last 5 years since I became tax assessor collector. If I can go to the next one real quick. The issue of fees, I made this an issue my first year as tax assessor collector. I made it an issue with DMV. I made it an issue with our state organization of tax assessor collectors. The legislative committee took it up. And a law was passed in 2013 that allowed the DMV board to make adjustments to the fees. We get $1.90 for every registration. It's been $1.90 for over 20 years. Obviously, we're now upside down on the cost because our cost for a registration is closer to $5. They had TTI, Texas Transportation Institute, perform a study on the cost of registration transactions around the state. While we thought that study was somewhat flawed, especially in some of the assumptions made on cost, there were some things we did agree with. One of the recommendations that came out of that study was to increase the fee to $3.30. Unfortunately, that study was kind of tossed. It was just kind of put aside. As you can see, this is what has been adopted. It's currently $1.90. In walk-ins, by the way, that is our big cost, is face-to-face transactions. You know, we have 8 offices, and those 8 offices are there primarily for motor vehicle work. Only 30% of the people will actually come into the office to make a property tax payment, but 67% will come into the office to get their motor vehicle registration. So that is our biggest cost is that customer that we face every day across the counter. They're going to increase that 40 cents. That, I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. I appreciate whatever we can get, but it's almost an insult when you consider how upside down we are on cost. And when I say we, it's all the urban counties, all the large counties. It doesn't affect the smaller counties near as much as it does us, but especially the big five. And we're responsible for half of the entire state, the big five urban counties. But the two things that you really need to focus in on is the walk-in cost and the online. The online business, that's the internet business, and this is the one item that tax assessor collectors around the state are upset about the most because it was not as labor intensive as, obviously, as a face-to-face transaction. And the revenue from that helped us offset the costs elsewhere in the motor vehicle department. They're taking that away. They're going to centralize that, and that's going to be done out of one location. They will process that, mail the registration, the sticker, to that person wherever they live in the state of Texas. It will no longer be mailed out from the counties. But what we lose there, again, is a huge amount of revenue that helped us offset costs elsewhere. The bottom line here on the registrations, on the fees, is a net loss to us of over $600,000. Well, it's $592,000 a year. Now, understand we were already upside down. We're already upside down on our motor vehicle cost because they hadn't changed it in over 20 years. We're now faced with a situation where the fee structure the Department of Motor Vehicles Board has adopted is going to hurt us another almost $600,000 a year.
Ron, okay, temporary permits, okay, that's on our.
That's a very small part of our business.
Okay.
The subcontractors, that's our grocery stores and of course the dealer deputy work. But the big thing is the online and the small increase we're getting for face-to-face. And on that online, by the way, of the almost 600,000 that is a net loss to us, over 400,000 of that is postage. We got that as part of, the fee structure. We don't get it on titles at all. And incidentally, this does not affect title fees. It's strictly registration fees. We get $5. We're faced with the same upside down scenario with titles. We get $5 for every title. It's been that way for years, and it doesn't come close to covering our costs. So the county is going to be subsidizing the cost of this state program to a larger degree than they were before. Because again, we're looking at, for Tarrant, $600,000 a year net loss on top of already being upside down on our costs. Other counties, it's even worse. Harris, Dallas, it's going to be a harder hit for them than it is us.
Can you actually get us an actual net loss number? The actual number?
I can give you the number based on 2015 transactions.
That'll be good.
That's $592,000.
How much?
$592,000.
$592,000.
Right.
Have you talked with our local delegation about this?
A couple of them, yes. This is going to come up in the legislature, but let me tell you something else that happened. At our conference last month, when because they had the comment period, and a lot of us commented, including me, and I think all of y'all got a copy of that. When they came and gave their report to the tax assessor collectors conference, they added another 25 cents. They lowered what they were going to get, what DMV was going to get, by 25 cents and increased our fee, proposed fee, by 25 cents. So it was going to go from 40 cents extra to 65 cents. But when the board met several days later and adopted the final fee, that 25 cents had been taken away. And the reason is the governor's office, we're told Tcdrs that if there's an extra quarter, then it's going to go to the taxpayer, not to the counties. And I say that with regard to any legislative fix. Given the involvement of the governor's office in this, I'm not optimistic that there would be a legislative change that the governor would sign. That's not to say we won't try, but I don't think it will happen. Because it was the governor's office, we're told, that removed that additional 25 cents they were going to give us. It's not all bad news. This is bad news for the tax office. Tax assessor collectors obviously want to cover their costs. And we're not doing that. We're not even close to doing that. Tcdrs should cover our costs in these things. Now, one thing that former Chairman Victor Vandergrift wanted to do and had proposed was the ability for any county to come before the DMV board, make their case why the fee in their county should be higher. Because anytime you have a one-size-fits-all for the state of Texas, it's inherently unfair. And in a case like this, it's going to be inherently unfair to the urban counties. That was not adopted by the board. If I could go to the last slide.
So, Ron, can I ask a quick question, just for clarification? The 25 cents that the board took back, because
Yes.
the governor's office said that if he gave it to the county, it would need to go back to the citizens. Did the board keep the 25 cents?
No, it's going back to, so that's 25 cents less total.
So the board didn't keep the 25 cents?
That's my understanding. That's my understanding. Anyway, it's
Mr. Wright,
Yes, sir.
are there things that we can do with our process and procedures that could lower our costs?
The answer there is yes, but only to the extent that the Department of Motor Vehicles allows us to do it. We are slaves to their system. The computer in our office is a state computer. The printer is a state printer for motor vehicle work. The software is state software. We can't touch it. We can't modify it. So we're stuck with that. I have had multiple conversations with DMV staff, including the executive director, about moving forward technologically because they're woefully behind, and getting to that next generation, because part of the solution is going to be technology here. There's so many things that are available right now, proven technology right now. Again, the biggest cost is that face-to-face. And we can lower that. It lowers our cost. I mentioned self-service kiosks, which would be very simple, and it's proven technology for registration renewal. Because the vast majority of people that come into the tax office to renew their registration, it's just a straight-up registration renewal. There's no problem. There's no complications. And it could easily be done with a self-service kiosk. I could have a bank of 6 kiosks and 1 clerk helping those 6 people. Or I can have 6 people at a counter and 6 clerks. The other thing I discussed with them is the mobile apps. Mobile apps are here. It's proven technology. It's not new technology anymore. And people could renew their registration with a mobile app. And the coming generation, that's what they're going to expect. But right now, DMV isn't there, and it's going to be a few years before they are. But that, to answer your question, is the ultimate solution. Anyway, it's bad news for the tax office. It's not bad news for the county. The more registrations we have, the more money we're going to lose in the tax office. But the more registrations we have, the more money the county's going to get in road and bridge money. Now, that has nothing to do with what I do, but you get that $10 on every registration. So the more as our registrations continue to grow, that road and bridge fund will also grow. So for the county, that growth in registrations is a net plus, even though it's a net loss for me.
Yeah, but because the tax assessor's office has no money of its own.
Right.
We've got to feed that loss.
That's
so
right.
None of this is good news.
The county subsidizes
right.
that state program. The other thing is this. It has to do with title work. That's going up. That's a good thing. The more title work we do, in other words, the more cars that are sold, the more cars that are transferred in the county, the more the loss is going to be for the tax office on motor vehicle transactions. However, we collect, and this is earned revenue for the tax office, we collect motor vehicle sales tax for the state controller's office. And we get 1% of that. Last year it was $18 million. So the more cars that are sold in the county, the more sales tax we're going to collect and the more commission we're going to get on that. Now, it has absolutely nothing to do with the Department of Motor Vehicles. They still should cover our cost. But for the county, again, last year it was $18 million was our commission on that. Total cost for the motor vehicle department is $7 million.
How much?
7. Total cost for the entire tax office is $13 million. So, we're covering our cost, but that's also beside the point in terms of motor vehicle, because the state controller's office has nothing to do. It's a total separate agency of state government. But from a county perspective, what I'm saying is this growth in transactions is going to be a net plus for the county. But we're just know that the tax assessor collectors, particularly the very large counties and the 5 urbans in particular, are very upset about this. And the DMV board knows it.
I might suggest that maybe the 5 or probably even 6 of you, because when you say 5, which ones are you?
It's Harris, Dallas, Tarrant, Bayer, and Travis.
El Paso and Collin are right behind
They're
you.
they're not close.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. It's a large county. Nueces is large, Montgomery, Williams, but it's a pretty good gap until you get to Travis.
Okay.
But we consider a large county anything over $500,000.
You might try to organize and put together something to talk to all those local delegations, because certainly those local delegations representatives understand that maybe they could give us some more light.
Yeah. I'll tell you that, and this is just an aside, there are 3 of the large counties, Bayer, Travis, and El Paso, that use full-service deputies. They're the only ones that do. There's only 4 that do. A full-service deputy is somebody that just sets up shop and performs the motor vehicle work of a tax office, including the title work. They do it all. And those counties, their business model is based on using full-service deputies. I mean, it is a very big deal to them, and they've been doing it for decades. So to change that would be extremely costly to them. So Travis and Bayer are in particular very focused on the change, and it doesn't affect us at all, but it does them. And I think one of the things you'll see in the legislature is a move by a couple of those counties to get that increased a bit. But again, I want to tell you that while we're hopeful overall that, and again, the technology is what's going to be the final solution on this, but we're years away from that. But in terms of a legislative fix, I'm I'm not that optimistic because of the involvement of the governor's office in what, was finally adopted.
On the full service ones, was their reimbursement cut significantly too?
Yes. Just as, we have a limited service deputy, which, is the grocery stores and the car dealers.
Okay.
Any questions?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. We have one audience participation. Ms. Lauren Jenkins, please come forward. You know the routine. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Ms. Jenkins.
Good morning.
Haven't seen you in a while.
Yes, and I had to come today. First, my name is Laura Adams Jenkins, North Richland Hills, 8101 Canyon Oak Drive. And I know I only have 3 minutes, and I work real hard to do the 3-minute thing, but if I'm over, give me a call.
Go ahead.
The reason I'm here today is I haven't been here for a while because my spirits are kind of crushed in March when my son's parole was denied once again. But I had to come back today because of what happened last week and what happened in Louisiana, Minnesota, and especially here in Dallas. And for those that don't know my story, I wish you would go to justiceforroyjr.com because I'm not going to talk about my story. I'm going to talk about what I've heard for the last several days about a conversation we have in our communities with police, with racism, and all that. And I have a conversation downtown Fort Worth at the Tarrant County Cary Criminal Building once a month. And I have a conversation with the people that come in and out of that building. And I can tell you that those people that work in that building, those people that wear those badges, they're awesome, awesome people. But you are letting them down. You are letting them down. They treat me with kindness. They smile at me. They encourage me to come back because they know what I'm standing up is standing up for them. Because I'm standing up for injustice, and they know that injustice to anybody is going to impact them. Every time I hand out this little message and I talk about my son, the people that read this message see and hear that my son's life does not matter. That's a black life that does not matter. So what does that do? That makes them look at every police officer, everybody with a badge. That makes them look at them with fear, with trepidation, with distrust. I don't distrust police officers. My son did. And I can't even imagine how he's going to feel when he comes home in a year and a half, the date that he is scheduled to be out. I can't even imagine how he's going to feel. But I encourage you all to do better. Because the police officers that came to that court were told, with my son's trial, they were told what to say and how to say it. You know what that did? That told them black lives don't matter. But they do matter. And you own it. So shame on you, and you. I love my police officers. They're tremendous. And I'd like to read a statement from my son's father, who was 35 years in law enforcement. That's what he did every day of his life to support his son. He says, I care deeply for my son and believe we should take any and all necessary steps to ensure he is treated justly. I care deeply for the criminal justice system where I spent the major part of my life. Every meal that we ate came from him being out there with a badge. Last and certainly not least, I care deeply that a fellow officer has lost his life in the line of duty, serving and protecting his community. That's what he did. That's what Officer Medlin did every day. I believe the ultimate tribute and testimony to Officer Medlin is to ensure the criminal justice system he served remains a system that the public trusts and respects. So shame, shame, shame on all of you.
GK, do we have anything else?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Then we will recess our open meeting and proceed to close to discuss items exempt under section 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code.
There being no further business to be transacted, this court is adjourned.